What is happening with precious metals? That's the big question right now. I'm Pigeon, I'm a trader of 6 years, and in this video, I'm going to go through three of the main precious metal charts, gold, silver, and palladium, and see how they are performing, what levels we can expect to see next, what to watch out for, and how we can really trade this day to day. So, starting here with gold, this has obviously been the one at the forefront of everyone's mind, as this has been taking a non-stop rally really since early 2024. In just 2 years, this shit is up 2.5x. Interestingly enough, it's formed a bit of a parabolic uptrend. This is something we usually saw mostly in the crypto space, some half decade ago at this point. Jesus Christ. Uh, but now we're starting to see this play out on gold, and really, when we see this, there is still a lot of money to be made. We just need to be extra careful. When we're looking at our macro levels right now, obviously when you're making new all-time highs, there's not really main support or resistance levels to go off. But what we can use is what we call fib retracement targets. And right now we're actually coming up on a really big one, the 2618. This usually acts as a really quite strong resistance to price, where a lot of selling tends to happen. And you'll notice there's little bits of resistance every time it comes into one of these levels, but the 2618 usually is a pretty strong one. Now, interestingly enough, it's actually accelerating heading into that. So rather than slowing down, coming into resistance, it's looking to either just straight up bust through, or what we can see sometimes with these parabolic rises is what we call a blow off top. So in the short term, I actually do expect that gold does continue this into the 2570, so another $100 up. Obviously, it's not a big move, but this is a level we've been looking at really since we first bottomed out here back in November. Found some support around the $4,000 level, local higher high, higher low, and resumed the uptrend from there. Flipped previous high into support and continued on again. So as we're pushing in here, this is not really where I want to be entering new longs. It's very hard to cover that position. And our main target that we'd be looking for is just right above our heads. So maybe if you want to scalp very low time frame, you could get away with that. But I would say for now, I'm going to wait and see what happens at this level. If we see a strong push right through this, we get straight into the 2400s, then we could actually even look for a pullback back towards that 2618 level, that 5070 level. Use that as support to enter new longs, where we would then target back to around the previous high here. And that would also open up room towards the 6,300 level, right? So that's this level to level trading we'd be doing on gold. If instead we start seeing this kind of get a strong big push above, but by the time we get to like our major closes, which to be fair, our weekly does have only another 5 hours here before US market closes for the week. But as we come into this next week, if we just see a big wick on the top side while closing back below, that's usually a pretty strong sign that, hey, things are getting a bit iffy, and we might want to take a step back. But for the time being, we're just going to look what is going to happen as we come into this level. Are we going to flip this into support, look for new longs, or are we going to get a major retracement coming out of this, where either we relong or we assess whether that is maybe the actual blow off top where things cool down. I do think with this recent acceleration that we can actually push towards these higher levels. But again, we want to break through this 2618 first before we get to that point. So for gold right now, things still look strong. There's a lot of juice still behind this, but it is not at a point where I would want to enter. In fact, it's actually a point where I would be taking some risk off if you have gold exposure. And as we kind of get some acceptance or confirmation that we're holding above this 5100 area, that would be where I either add some risk back on or enter new positions, with a tight invalidation if we lose that level again. So that's how I see gold right now. As for silver, a lot of people have been obviously playing off this big gold run and looking like what else can we play with, and obviously silver is a big one in there. Last month we could actually see as we came into this 1272 target, you got this big wick on the top side, but this month it just didn't care. Everything just kept pumping, and actually when we zoom in, we notice something more interesting there, where yes, initially it found some resistance here. It struggled around that $74 mark. But then as it pushed above here, it actually retested that as support, bounced off, and is now continuing on. Now, as we came towards like the 98 level, this is from a way older fib. If we draw all the way from, from the 1980s down towards the low in 1991, we would get our 1272 around the 98.7 level. I generally would say more recent fibs hold a bit more ground, but it can kind of go to show why we might face some resistance as we do come into a level like 98, especially as also with $100 being a pretty round number. But for the time being, it seems to be pushing through, getting a bit of that extra juice as we head towards the weekly close, just like we were seeing with gold. My main target for silver right now continues to be around 122. Unfortunately, I do not have a position on silver as I did not get an entry I was happy enough with. I missed the big wicks here as I was out IRL. But I did not get an entry that I was satisfied with. I was not looking at it back here in January when we got this initial retest, but that would have obviously been a very nice entry. For the time being, this continues in an uptrend. There is no kind of topping construction, and again, it falls more into that parabolic rise territory where we'd expect a bit more of a blow off top. Now, I do not want to be anywhere near this in terms of shorts because these can go on for a while, much further than you'd anticipate. So for silver as well, I'm currently looking for this to hit the 1618 target around $120. Once we flip that, we could then look for this to head towards like 160, $200, $10 even is in the cards if we do get to flip that level, right? But for now, again, I would look maybe for a lower time frame entry if you want to get involved in this, but understand that it's pretty hard to cover a position at this current moment. So for silver, again, bullish outlook, but hard to get involved. As for palladium, this is something I actually got involved with just a few days ago. And I notice I'm not on the right chart here. We can use this one. So palladium is actually an interesting one because it's not been aggressively bid up as much as gold or silver. So while gold and silver have had major all-time breakouts effectively, where they are heading for prices never before seen, palladium is actually still operating in what I would consider, well-known territory, as that we have major weekly support and resistance levels that we can play from for palladium. Namely, we actually saw this basing off in the $900 to $1,200 region. We broke out from that. Where did it go? It came right back down to the big neckline support here around the 1700 level. And now actually, as price was trading here, we saw this initial break above, little fake out to the downside, filled some liquidity there, filled some fair value gaps, came back above, and hit the little reclaim here. So actually, as we were bouncing here just a few days ago, I got my entry in palladium, and I'm currently long on this. The primary target for me is going to be kind of the lower bound of this resistance. I would say around 2,500 would be a great level for palladium. But even along the way here, around 2230 would be a decent level to take some risk off if we're doing a shorter term trade. I would hold off a bit on looking at way further targets than this, because we're going to have to see how this reacts once it gets back into this all-time high region. It's very possible that the precious metal run continues, and if we start seeing gold pushing past 5,000 into 6,000, maybe even breaking that and pushing to 7 or even 9,000, these are in the cards if things keep going crazy like this. then it's very possible that we see actually palladium breaking out of its all-time high, pushing back towards 3,400, and then towards 5,000 potentially. That is obviously a long ways away, and that's not what I'm going to be calling for here, as we simply do not know yet. But until we get to that point, there's a lot that's going to happen until then. So we'll take our time and we'll just focus on the levels we can look at right now, which again is that 230 and that $2,500 level for palladium. Where would this all get invalidated? I'd say if palladium starts pulling back below the 1600s, especially below this big kind of blue box here, this is kind of what I would call our base support on palladium. Once it starts breaking through here, it's kind of shifted from this steady uptrend towards a potential downtrend once again, opening up room to come back to 1200. So for now, I'm bullish on palladium. I'm bullish on silver and gold. But how we trade them all is, as you can see, very, very different. So that's about it. See you.